She let herself be taken, dragged in chains to their ships, so she can trace the poison to its source, find the heart, and cut it out. Stop the slavers, keep her promise, but plans can drift off course.
Senua's Saga, Hellblade 2, is the follow-up to the 2017 narrative adventure Hellblade, Senua's Sacrifice, a game lauded for its bold storytelling and representation of psychosis. The original Sacrifice is a personal journey told through unreliable eyes as Senua travels through the mythological realm of Helheim on a quest to resurrect her lover Dillion while carrying his severed head in a bag. The game was a critical darling and opened the doors for wider conversations regarding mental health and stigmatization. Though not all agree on the quality of the representation, it was an important milestone for the way games tell stories and for what kind of stories a game can tell. The sequel attempts to build on that conversation, using Senua's unique perspective to examine power structures, the mythology that shapes normalcy, and the effects of shared trauma. Hellblade 2 starts with a promise: end the raids so that no other will suffer as Dillion did. To make good on this promise, Senua allows herself to be enslaved by the Vikings and brought to their home, a stunning recreation of 10th century Iceland. From the opening moments, the story strikes a more epic tone. Where Sacrifice began with a young woman quietly floating on a log, Hellblade 2 begins with our hero in the hull of a slaver's longship as it's battered to pieces by a storm. The intensity continues upon arrival to Iceland, where Senua discovers that the country is beset by a scourge of giants who she'll have to overcome if she's to reach the Northmen. The journey from the perilous shores to the battle with the first giant Iltaiga is beautifully composed. The story takes time to reacquaint us with Senua's cast of internal voices, and a new cast of characters also become tied to her quest and offer opposing views about their culture, the nature of our adventure, and how to best survive it. Visually, Hellblade 2 is a technical marvel, with the most fully realized game environment I've ever explored. The photogrammetry-based modeling and brilliant lighting allow a seemingly desolate landscape to spring to life through subtle yet incredible detail. There were multiple times when I had to stop just to take in my surroundings, not only to appreciate the beauty, but to marvel at the craftsmanship. Ninja Theory went all out on the animation and performance capture too. Facial expressions are perfectly transposed onto the incredible character models, and in the game's many shots of quivering lips, those 3D meshes jiggle their way right into the realm of the photoreal. There were multiple scenes where I was squinting, trying to figure out if I was watching a live-action recording or a game. As amazing as the individual elements are, the combat sections tie it all into a show-stopping spectacle. Each arena is thoughtfully lit and staged to make sure every bad guy looks as menacing as the music suggests. Animations are seamlessly blended between Senua and her foe as they interrupt each other's efforts with counter-strikes and parries. Blows are given a moment to land, a quick pause that imbues combat with a weighty staccato feeling. It's just enough to give the impression of swords being bound up in flesh and armor. It feels as rewarding as it is disgusting, as each strike Senua lands on an opponent is visually represented. Finishing moves and switching opponents universally look amazing, but at the cost of being highly scripted events. And unfortunately, that highly scripted part can't be understated. Fights flow naturally, but are limited to 2 attacks and a parry. Animations are beautiful, but limit the fights to 1 opponent at a time, eventually making combat a chore. And as beautiful as the environments are, movement is limited to narrow paths, with exploration being almost non-existent, save for the occasional superfluous loop or dead end. Hellblade 2 isn't billed as an open-world game though, but in coming so close to looking like one, its limitations are brought to the forefront. It's a difficult balance to strike when making a narrative experience. When should it be told like a story, and when should it play like a game? And when should that story end? The crescendo reached in the closing of Iltaiga's arc is genuinely moving, and offers Senua a rare opportunity for growth. She's given the space to transition from a tormented victim into a uniquely capable warrior whose battles are won through empathy and compassion. It's a beautiful evolution that could have been worked into a powerful ending. Instead, the story trudges on for another 3 hours, slowly losing focus, muddling its themes, and undermining the impact of the preceding chapters. During those 3 hours, Hellblade 2 feels like a different game altogether. Thoughtful storytelling is replaced by endless expository dialogue and cutscenes that rush the story between increasingly brief set pieces. The story tries to remain ambitious, but unfortunately never recovers the momentum from earlier in the game. Key themes of mental health end up taking a backseat to the action and become lost in the epic scale of the story, which detracts from the conversation that the original Sacrifice began. Senua is a character crafted to tell introspective, personal stories, and may have been the wrong choice to tell a saga of this size. Combat is simple and repetitive and made easier by Senua's Iron Mirror. If you can survive long enough for the mirror to charge, you'll be able to trigger a flashy flurry of blows that'll kill even the toughest of foes. Puzzles require more travel time than thought and are mostly repetitive tasks with no difficulty curve. Eventually, both puzzle challenges and fighting become tedious enough to elicit groans. Senua's Saga Hellblade 2 does have some great moments, but perhaps sets the bar in its first half that its second half can't seem to match. And while the second half of the game may not be as strong, the spectacle is still incredible to watch. The El Taiga arc alone makes this a title worth checking out.